Welcome to the Cova Tembel podcast, global news and personal views, hosted by your new friend, Yaron. Prepare yourself to listen by asking, is procrastination really not laziness, but simply a depression response?
Hello everyone, my name is Yaron and welcome to the Cova Tembel podcast. It's December 14th, 2024 today, and I'm here again to discuss issues that are on my mind. This is the 7th episode of the Cova Tembel podcast, and I really thank you for your taking the time from your busy schedule to listen. If you are new here, thank you for coming, and if you're coming back, thank you too. By the way, I tend to be a slow talker, so I give you permission to listen to my podcast at 1.25 playback speed. Now let's get to it. This episode's topics: the Gaza hostage situation, new ancient discoveries that are even older than Cher and Madonna, music news, Israeli singer-songwriter Korin Elal dead at 69, the DJ Corner, a Cova Tembel music song entitled A Flower Child, and the Cosmic News Corner, the universe is not expanding, a matter of semantics, and I introduce a new word or two to the English language, so stay tuned for that. And we will wrap it up with This Week in History and a silly parting joke. So let's get started. Well, still in Gaza, 100 children, women and men are still being held hostage by Hamas and other terrorist organizations. Now, several videos of hostages have been released, which brought some relief but raised quite a few concerns. Negotiations are ongoing. There could be something in the air. It seems that there has been a shortlist created or released by Hamas. And so let's hope and pray that a breakthrough will happen soon. Hopefully this time our prayers will be answered. Let's get to an ancient discovery. Archaeologists digging at Tel Shimron in northern Israel have revealed a monumental structure from which they have recovered a vast cache of rare cultic objects used some 3,800 years ago by the ancient Canaanites. Shimron is a tel, which in Hebrew means a mound or a hill, and that mound was formed by an accumulation of layers of human habitation over thousands of years. By the way, the word Aviv in Tel Aviv means the spring, as in the season, and Tel Aviv is a mound of spring, or spring hill, if you will. Anyways, Shimron was occupied at multiple points from the Bronze Age to modern times, but the city appears to have reached its peak during the Middle Bronze Age. In Israel, the Bronze Age is the period around 3300 to 1200 BCE, when objects made of bronze were in use, or common use. Anyway, they found burnt animal bones, precious imported ceramics, and 2 bull statuettes representing Canaanite deities, and that was apparently one of the most spectacular finds that emerged from a huge dump of religious artifacts located at the top of the monument that was recently discovered. Now, the large structure at Tel Shimron, which is still only partially excavated, is located in the Jezreel Valley in the north of Israel. And archaeologists from Wheaton College, I also never heard of that college, but I'm glad they're here, and the Tel Aviv University, who have been investigating the site, are still perplexed over the meaning, perplexed, that's a very good word, over the meaning and function of the massive structure, which would have been back then visible from many miles away. So that was it was intentional. Professor Daniel Master, an archaeologist at Wheaton, who co-heads the dig together with Tel Aviv's Spring Hill, Dr. Mario Martin, says, "What we are digging is a monument to what is an open question. A monument to what is an open question." I should write these quotes with more clearly. But the idea that it's a monument is becoming clearer and clearer. That's what this Professor Master said. Now, it's quite a big monument. I mean, in the scale of those days, it's a large 68 square meter space, which is about 730 square feet. I calculated it especially for you. It was filled to the brim with one of the richest collections of Middle Bronze Age artifacts found in the Levant. Now, Levant, as some of you may know, is historically the region of what is roughly modern-day Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Syria, and some of the surrounding area. And by the way, Levant is a French word that roughly means sunrise, meaning the east. Anyway, Master also explains that we are dealing with something that's very much an intentional, monumental thing that was designed to be seen from far away. So this is, they thought about it. It wasn't just a building. They wanted it to be prominent. This is another quote, "We are still trying to figure out the political implications and why it was originally built." That was Professor Master. Anyway, the researchers have presented their findings at an archaeology conference at the Tel Aviv University, and I'm looking forward to see if they're going to present it to the public. Anyway, that's ancient discoveries. Now, there is some sad news in Israel in the music scene. I love Israeli music. I think it's one of the best in the world, and one of the best singer-songwriters, one of my favorites, is Korin Elal, and she died the past week on December 12th at the age of 69, and she was one of Israel's most beloved singer-songwriters. Korin Elal composed some of Israel's, she was into kind of a rock and pop, but very meaningful songs, and that became very popular. One of them was called Antarctica, which I covered in the Cova Tembel music project, and I renamed it America. And I played that in the 3rd episode of the podcast, so you want to go back and listen to that one. Anyway, Korin had a really gentle persona. I never met her, but she seemed such a nice person when she was interviewed. May she rest in peace. I will leave the link to the Antarctica in America songs below, so check that out. Alright, speaking of music, here we are at the DJ Corner, and this one is called A Flower Child, another song from the Cova Tembel music project. And the song is sung by Ruhama, who is one of Israel's premier singers. She sings the English version to an Israeli classic called Tzemach Bar, which was actually a wild flower, but I translated it as a flower child because it just made more sense lyrically in the melody. And the song Flower Child is a nice sort of a soft melodic tune with just a wonderful message for young and old. Anyway, the original music was composed by Nahum Hyman. The original Hebrew lyrics were written by the amazing Rachel Shapira, who, by the way, also wrote the lyrics to Autumn Song, which you heard in last week's episode. Anyway, the English lyrics are by yours truly, and they are written in the spirit of the original song, so enjoy.
By dawn, I'm gonna be so far away, so don't you look for me. Those who'll forgive my fall will learn to praise the love I feel, and time will silence all. But now I've set my spirit free. He who had loved me will return to walk your fields. From deserts wide, and he will see that there had lived among your weeds a flower child. And I want to open up my eyes and blossom just for me. I've had my share of dreams, but all my dreams ripped at the seams. I wanted to console, but passion swelled inside of me. I've known the charm of youth, I've held a cradled storm at moonlit skies. Indeed, I know a strange and nameless flame of warmth had lit my nights. And you, it's true, it's you whom I have missed. It's useless to resist. I've known a secret pain and magic days that still persist. I will recall a glance, a touch of softness on my nape. I'll be the shade of clouds that pass upon your feet. Closed in disguise, I beat so long but never lived among your weeds. A flower child, a flower child.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the musical break. If you like the content, please like, comment, and share, and of course, please subscribe. And you might want to tell all your friends about the world's best new podcast, and then tell them about this one too. So thank you for that. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it. Anyway, this is the deep part of the podcast, of the Cova Tembel podcast, when I talk about deeper issues that are on my mind. And this time I'm talking about the subject I entitled "The Universe is Not Expanding, a Cosmic Matter of Semantics." Now, I made some notes. I'm going to read some of them while I talk. So the idea of saying that the universe is expanding just because galaxies are moving away from each other seems wrong to me. I know it's a judgment call, but I think it's wrong. I think it's misleading anyway. And scientists should really use a different word for the phenomenon that galaxies are moving away from each other. By the way, you might be hearing some background noises. My neighbors are pretty rowdy. Anyway, scientists should really use a different word for the phenomena that galaxies are moving away from each other. And I'm not a scientist, but I think the right word for the phenomena should be impand. Rather than expand, impand. And I'm going to define it for you. And impand, I-M-P-A-N-D, is a verb meaning to expand within. To impand, this word doesn't exist apparently. I looked it up on Merriam-Webster dictionary. Anyway, the verb impand, and I'm offering this as a new word to explain the phenomena, would mean to expand within. That is, the expansion occurs in that the contents of a thing move away from each other or increase in size within the thing, but the actual thing does not itself expand. So that's in the same vein as the word implode. which according to the Merriam-Webster dictionary is to collapse inward as if from external pressure, well, to impand would mean to expand within, without expanding outwardly, if that makes sense, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more, about if the universe is infinite, then there's nowhere to expand to. Anyway, the question I've had on my mind is, since the universe is infinite, can it expand? And can it contract if it is infinite? The idea of infinity is hard to wrap the human mind around, since the human mind itself is a finite version of the infinite mind. The human mind has a beginning and an end. That beginning and end, I believe anyway, is in itself a construct of the human mind. Whatever limits the human mind, let me rephrase that. I'm reading off my notes and I want to make sure I get this right. So, whatever limits the human mind imposes on itself are the limits that make up its world. So, the limit of the human mind is self-imposed, I believe, and not only does the human mind impose limitations on itself, but it creates the contents within these limits. But I don't want to be arrogant and think that I'm right and others are wrong, so I opened my mind to questioning my own ideas, and I came up with several questions that contradict my own ideas, and I wanted to make sure that I can answer these questions in the way that I believe it, not as a dogma to say I'm right and you're wrong and all the scientists are wrong. So I had questions like this one. Is the idea that the universe is infinite also a construct of the human mind? And is the idea that the universe is finite also a construct of the human mind? Does the universe change its size if the human mind thinks it to be so? That is, can the universe expand or contract in accordance with what you think of it? Is the universe infinite because I think it is? Is each individual's idea of the size of the universe renders that size universe? Or does the idea that the universe is infinite cannot be withdrawn? That is, once I thought of an infinite universe, I cannot go back in my mind to a finite one. It is there for good? Is that I'm asking at myself? If I had thought of it, can I ever unlearn it? It's like once you understand something, you can no longer misunderstand it, even if you try to. Or another question, maybe the universe is infinite when you think it is one moment and finite when you think of it the next moment. And the big question was, is the universe influenced by the human mind's idea of it? is the idea that the universe began with a Big Bang 13.8 billion years ago true to someone who believes that, and that the universe could be infinite with an unnumbered Big Bangs, or no Big Bangs at all, true to another person? Is the Big Bang Theory simply a construct of a human mind that wants to think it to be so? So, and there's more questions. I haven't answered them yet. I mean, I have already in my mind, but I'm going to talk it through with you. And then there are more questions. Can any idea of the universe be true simultaneously with other ideas? And so, getting back to the ideas that the universe is either, being finite or infinite, if it is finite, is it like a bubble with a skin? Or does it simply run out of matter? And the idea going around that there may be other universes outside ours seems illogical to me. I mean, how many would there be, other universes? Would there be an infinite number of other universes? And wouldn't those other quote-unquote universes be part of the universe, the one universe? So somehow I can't imagine a finite universe. It just doesn't make sense to me. In fact, it's the definition finite that I can't wrap my mind around. Not infinity. And it's not so much about wrapping my mind around the idea of infinity, but opening up to it by releasing all limitations or expectations about its scope. In my mind, the universe, this universe where we live, and whatever it is, in fact, in my mind, the universe, which I call the universal mind, because I do believe it is intelligent. And if you ask how I understand it, well, ask yourself, are you intelligent? And if you are intelligent, isn't the universe intelligent? So, in my mind, the universe is infinite in all aspects, in scopes of time, space, and form. And the universe has one aspect that I can't question, and that is its existence. And it's this existence that is infinite. Whatever shape it takes, whether it's whether it impends or interacts. And there's another new word I'm offering, and interacts would mean the contraction that occurs in the contents of a thing that move towards each other, or decrease in size within the thing, but the actual thing does not itself contract. That's interact, to interact. INTRACT. So, anyway, whatever shape it takes, its existence is irrefutable, and since existence was, is, and always will be, its infinity is also irrefutable, at least in my mind. my own personal existence has no bearing on universal existence. And I am more inclined to believe that the form of the universe changes in accordance with how you imagine it to be, but that its infinity is real. The human mind forms the universe's contents, at least some of it, but I cannot override its infinite existence. And existence itself, at least in my mind, is formless, and therefore so is the universe. And since the universe is formless, it cannot have limits that define it. Imagination is also formless until you limit it by intentionally imagining things that define it. And it is not because it is shapeless that the universe is limitless. It is because it is limitless that it is shapeless. That was important for me to make that distinction. Existence, being the only trait that is infinite, makes everything else ephemeral, come and go. Existence, and I'm reading from my notes here, existence is the support for energy. Existence is the support for light. The quote-unquote speed of existence is faster than the speed of light because it is the basis of light. Without existence, light cannot move. And as a side note, I think that if existence did have speed, it would be as fast as one's own perception of the distance between oneself and the farthest thing he or she could imagine. But since existence is infinite, it does not require speed to reach a point within its own self. I imagine the universal mind as one eye that sees and knows everything about itself, all at the same time. I'm just going to have a little drink here. I'm not used to talking so much. Anyway, if you were to open your mind to absolute infinity, absolute existence, not only to the acceptance of the idea, and not just opening your mind to the acceptance of the idea, but to the thing itself, spaceless, timeless, and formless, so infinite that only your sense of existence can understand it. If you were to open your mind to absolute infinity, then your mind would merge with the universal mind and essentially disappear, like pulling down the walls, the walls of perception, like pulling down the Berlin Wall to create one merged city. It's not such a great metaphor, but you know what I mean. You're a smart audience, I know that. Now, okay, so most of us, at least that's what it seems to me, haven't been taught this principle of seeing things as part of an infinite universal mind, and therefore we haven't learned how to experience that state and then believe And then we believe science when it says the universe is limited to 13.8 billion years of existence. And just a quick thing about science before I wrap it up. I believe that science is simply the exploration of the universal mind. What the Hubble and Webb telescopes, for example, are doing is simply exploring our universal mind. Those camera pills that you swallow and that show you pictures of the intestines of our physical body. I believe it's actually an Israeli invention. So if you remember those camera pills and that go through your intestines and take pictures, so are space telescopes. They are showing us pictures from the intestines of our universal body. Intestines may expand or contract, but their existence is what is being recorded. So, anyway, I know it's a flawed metaphor, especially if you've just had a large East Indian meal, but there you have it. Actually, through these telescopes, it's the universal mind that is exploring itself. Let me repeat that. It's through these microscope actually is that the universal mind is exploring itself. Probably because it's bored by just existing and knowing it all. So a galaxy can expand, but not the universe. That is, if the definition of universe is everything and everything in it, and not just a bubble with objects floating in it. Don't let me get started with what is called dark energy and how we intend to see what is floating around us in the same way we see Schrodinger's cat. Those are topics for in the future sometime. Anyways, in conclusion, and I'm happy that we have reached this point, and I know you are too. In conclusion, I wish the science community would choose other words to describe cosmic expansion and contraction. I offered two good alternatives. Take it or leave it. There you go. Okay, these are my thoughts about that topic. Now let's get to this week in history.
This week in history.
Okay, this week in history. This is taken from onthisday.com, and I'll actually start with yesterday because something very interesting happened yesterday. On December 13th, 1949, Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion appoints Reuven Shiloach to establish and lead the Israeli intelligence agency commonly known as the Mossad. December 14th, 2016, University of Toronto scientists present findings of the world's oldest water, 2 billion years old, from a mine in Canada. I believe they proceeded to brew a batch of Labatt Blue right afterwards. Anyway, on December 15, 1939, Gone with the Wind, directed by Victor Fleming, starring Clark Gable and Vivian Leigh, premieres in Atlanta, Georgia. And it won the Best Picture in 1940. And by the way, apparently inflation adjusted, it is the highest grossing film of all time. December 16, 1775, author Jane Austen is born. She is regarded as one of the greatest writers of social manners in the English language. By the way, Pride and Prejudice is one of my favorite reads. Highly recommend it. December 17, 1903, the Wright brothers make the first sustained motorized aircraft flight at 10:35 a.m., piloted by Orville Wright at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. I believe that Wilbur Wright lost their luggage and they're still looking for it. December 18, 1943, Keith Richards is born. 13 songs co-written with Mick Jagger appear on Rolling Stone magazine's list of 500 greatest ever songs. In December 1922, Teresa Vaughan, age 24, confesses in court in Sheffield, England, to being married 61 times over 5 years in 50 cities in 3 countries. I can just imagine how much alimony she got. December 20, 1192. Richard the Lion-Hearted, captured near Vienna by Leopold of Austria on his way home from the Third Crusade. He was released 2 years later in 1194, so you see, it's not the first time a European arrests someone coming out of Israel. Food for thought. Anyway, let's get to part ways with a silly parting joke. What did the Buddhist say to the pizza seller? Make me one with everything. I keep warning you, but you still stick around. Anyway, okay, well, this is it. Home Planet listeners, I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I hope to see you again in the next episode with more topics that I hope you'll find interesting. Let me know in the comments if there are any issues you'd like me to discuss in the future, and until next time, take care of yourselves and be kind to one another.
You've just listened to the Cova Tembel podcast. Now, wasn't that worth all that procrastination?
What are you still doing here?